So welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Chelsea Matthews and we have Miss Regina Byrd joining us today. Thank you so much for making the drive and coming to our office.
Yes, so glad to be here.
I wasn't sure exactly how far it was, so thanks for...
It's a drive, but you know, when you are talking about moms and money and wealth, that's my type of conversations. And so I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So for everyone joining us, Miss Regina and I got connected on social media, actually. Yes. My husband Martin and I have a financial services agency. Yes. And Regina, I think you shared a video of Martin's.
I did. Martin was speaking about life insurance and how you can build wealth with life insurance, you know, and I wanted to make sure that my audience got that information, because so many times moms don't know that they have different opportunities, such as life insurance, such as real estate, and they can get into these different avenues to build wealth. And so Martin was sharing this story and he broke it down so well. And I said, you know what, my audience needs to hear this information.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it was so great getting connected because for one, I love meeting and connecting with other women who want to learn and educate themselves and others about financial topics. Yes. And then also being a mom, because that's what got me into the financial industry, is I knew once my son started school, I realized he's not going to learn the things that he actually needs to know to be successful. Oh, yeah. And I wasn't living my best life at the time. And so I'm like, if he's not learning it from school and he's not learning it from me, where is he going to learn it from?
Where do they learn it from?
Yeah. So I had to like set out on a journey because I'm like, I have to be able to be the example. So I love connecting with other women and moms, especially who have that in their heart to help other women and their children too. Yes. So how did you get interested in financial topics and especially trust, because you are passionate about trust.
Okay. Well, wow, this starts way back when. I can remember being in middle school and I used to have a journal. My mother taught me that always write down things, you know, that you're learning or that you're feeling. And one day I remember writing in my journal, I'm going to help people with money. I don't know why, but I just feel like I'm going to help people with money. And then, you know, 30 years later, here I am helping people. I had a wonderful childhood. My parents were middle class, you know, upper middle class. I had everything that I needed. But unfortunately, when I had my own child, I didn't learn about financial education, because what happens is you almost think that the school is supposed to teach you everything, right? Mm-hmm. And so you go to school, you're learning all these different subjects, but the thing that they're actually supposed to teach you is financial education, because that's what's going to impact your life the most. So I remember being with my son, young, thinking I knew everything, and said, hold on, wait a minute. Why are we here struggling? Like, what's going on? And at that point, I remember telling myself, I will never be in this position again, not having enough to make sure that my son, which I only had my son at the time, has success. So I went on a journey learning about financial education. It was almost obsessive, and kind of still is, because I feel like every mother needs success. I just feel like as mothers, it's our duty to teach our children financial education. And so if I can be a part of that, I love it. And that's exactly what I do every day. I make sure that I teach mothers about financial education and how trust came about. I was on social media, you know, like you meet people on social media, but it really depends on what you're doing on social media. So I was on social media and I came across this lawyer. And she said, well, what happens to your children when you're not here? And I said, wow, I never really thought about that. And so I had a meeting with her. And that was like in 2016, before really everybody was talking about trust. And I created a trust for my child, for my children. And I made sure that assets were going into the trust, life insurance in the trust. And like I said, that's something that we're not taught. And so we have to find that avenue. And I'm just here as a resource for mothers, especially because if you are not taught it in the school system, like you said, you're not taught it at home, who is the example? Mm-hmm. Mothers, we're going to be the examples, you know, because we're going going to make sure that we have financial education.
I love that. Okay, so we have very similar experiences as far as like going on this journey to find the information that we didn't have.
Yes.
So like, what are some things that you did that, like, if another mom is watching and they're like at that point where like, I know something has to change, but I don't know where to go. And they might be on social media watching some of our videos or looking and reaching. So like, what are some things that were successful actions for you that like helped you move along in your journey?
Yeah. So I know this might be, cliche and people always say mindset, but the first thing that you have to do is really invest in yourself. I've always and I know this has added to my success. I've always invested in myself, whether that's a course, whether that's a book. I never stop learning. And I know that has helped on this journey. So if you're a mom out there and you're just trying to say, well, what do I do next, Regina? Like, I know you've given this great information. What is the next step? The next step is for you to invest in yourself, whether that's a course, whether that's, like a book. There's so many books about financial education. I have a book, right? 10 Prosperity Secrets for the Young and Fly. I wrote that, 2017, and it's about teaching young women financial education. You can Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You have a book. It's like it becomes where the resources are there, but you have to have confidence in yourself that this information will change your life. Because if you just keep scrolling, guys, then that's what you'll be doing forever. You'll just keep scrolling. You really have to have I wouldn't even say passion, just know that, okay, I'm going to learn this information and I'm going to put this information in action, right? So that would be the first step, is to get the information and invest in yourself. The second step, guys, is, and I'm not just saying that because you guys do life insurance. I love the fact that you guys do, but guys, get life insurance. I had a post. This is the foundational. Okay, so let me just break this down. Do you mind?
No, go for it.
Let me just break this down. The foundation of, financial literacy, right? Really getting your things in order. Number one, you want to invest in yourself. Number two, is you want to get life insurance, guys. I always say, if you have life insurance on your phone, right? You're past 35 and you have kids and you only have it on your phone. That's a problem, right? Because you have children. Get life insurance, guys, even if it's just through your job, or, you can reach out to Chelsea, but you want to have life insurance. It's super important because I don't know if you all know, but that is a wealth building tool, right? It's super important. And you guys can go into like the details of the different ways, but just having life insurance could help you pass down generational wealth. Another thing, will or a trust. I always believe in trust, just because all of the conditions that you can have, right? So if you want to gift your children money, you don't have to gift it in a lump sum. You can actually have criteria around the money that you're leaving for your children, right? In my trust, I have it where my kids have to travel. That's a way that they can, access their funds. College, if that's, one of the ways, marriage, like all the things that I want them to quote unquote have. If I'm not here, I allocate that in the trust, right? And the trust does not go through probate court. When you have a will, your will has to go through probate court. With the trust, it does not. So these are just ways, guys, that you can pass down this thing that we call generational wealth. We can't just talk about it. We actually have to put things in place to make sure that it's passed down correctly. And the third thing, the last thing I'm going to talk about is business passive income. Guys, we must teach our children about passive income. Right now, I don't know when this is coming out, but me and my son are writing a book, right? Of course, it's going to be centered around finances, but I'm writing this book for him as a gift. Yes, when he graduates, people are going to give him money, but I'm giving him something that can never be taken away. That's called passive income, because he will get residuals from this book in the future, guys. So those are the really three things when it comes to, a mom who is lost. Invest in yourself, get life insurance, please get a will, and really try to understand passive income, whether that's an online business, a course, a book. Do something where you don't have to work for the rest of your life.
Okay, so these are some major key gems and important things that you guys should be writing down if you don't have these things already in place.
Right.
And just to hit on to expand on some of those things that you mentioned. Number one, where can people get your book?
You can get my book online. You can get my book online on my website, prosperwithregina.com.
Awesome.
Yes.
As far as life insurance, I mean, this really is, it's what makes the rich richer and the poor poorer, or what can turn somebody, a family, a community from poor to rich, because it is like the cheapest way that you can create generational wealth, secure your family, create generational wealth. And then for people do you have people who say like, oh, I don't want to leave my kids a bunch of money because I don't want to ruin them or spoil them. And that's where the trust comes in. Right. Because like you were saying about having different incentives. Yes. Okay, our son has we have different ages set up where he will receive different amounts all the way up until like 40. Yes. He's not getting all that money. Because we want to incentivize him to generate his own money, to create passive income. And then like if he wants to start a business, that the trust could like match him, you know, and encourage him to do good things. Now, if he goes and ruins his life and gets on drugs, he's not getting any money either. So this is a way that you can not only provide so much for, whether you're there or not, and then also you can put in some protection as well. So, okay, you talked about investing in yourself, which is so important. And we were talking about somebody looking and getting the information versus putting it into place. I'll tell you, it reminded me when, before we really got active on social media, and I would watch different people and I'd follow different people who were successful and talked about mindset, and they were doing the things that I wanted to do. Like I wanted to be out there talking to people, helping people, but there were so many things stopping me, and I felt like I should be in a different place than I was. And I actually would get kind of pissed off watching some of these people because I felt like I wanted what they had and I didn't know how to get it. And the thing that really helped me was being able to change my mindset, because instead of thinking, I want that and I don't have it, or they have it and I don't, is, hey, that's what I want. And let me like picture myself having it, and let me act as if I had that. And what would I be doing? Oh, I would be doing these things. And then starting little by little, building up your successful actions, the things that move you closer to where you want to be. It's not like you decide where you want to be and the next day you're there. Right. You have to work and continue.
And I would also say reverse engineer, because I've done that basically. And I believe that's what's been so helpful with me being who I am, is I always reverse engineer. Like any of my projects, I say, okay, I want to make $10,000. What do I need to do each day to get to that point, right? And so if you reverse engineer, it's like if a person, I don't know, wants to, be successful, right? What does that look like to you? What is that success for you? Okay. And then you want to put on a piece of paper what that looks like, and then where you are. And then what are the steps that you need to take daily to become that person, right? Because success is not always about what you have. It's about who you become in the process, because success is a process, guys, right? So you see a lot of times with social media, and I'm an 80s baby, okay? So I was before the social media, right? And a lot of times you see that instant success. Somebody wakes up one day and, they were nothing, and then now, like tomorrow, the next day, they have everything that they quote unquote want. It's really not like that. It takes years of the process to become the person that you want to become, mom. So if you're a mom and you're like, look, I'm struggling, I am trying. What do I need to do? I want to be successful. You can be successful, right? But it takes that daily, everyday work that you have to put in. That's why, Chelsea, you were saying it was about mindset, right? And you said, I want to be that. But like you said, what are the steps that I need to take? And then you took them, right? It wasn't about you just saying, oh, I want to be successful, but it was actually the steps that you took every day. And that takes mindset, especially when you're not where you want to be and you have to keep doing the daily, consistency of it. That's success, really.
And that can be challenging, because building that discipline, I made a post that if you rely on, and this is something we were talking with our son about, because he's like, well, sometimes I don't feel motivated to like do the things that I need to do. And I'm like, if you rely on motivation, you will fail.
Yes.
Because I don't feel motivated a lot of times.
Yes.
I don't feel motivated to get out of bed. I don't feel motivated to go to the gym.
Yes.
You know, and so it's building that discipline of the actions that you need to do so that it doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter if you're motivated or not. If you are, it's more fun and it's easier to do. But it's those times when you don't want to, that discipline is going to be key. And when I say things like going to the gym, that's something that my whole life, I was very fit. I was a personal trainer. I was like,
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Until my 30s. Yeah. And then it was like slowly things change and creeping up. And then, you know, and then it was
30s,
like,
you got to put in some work.
Yeah. Then it was like nothing that used to worked anymore. And I had to relearn, like I had to get new information because the things I was doing was not working for me. So I had to get a new trainer and I had to look at food differently and all of these things. And now I've put in those actions and I've got results, but then things happen. I go out of town, we go on a trip, I get out of my habits. And instead of like getting down on myself, like, oh, I ruined it and I messed up and now I can't do it. No, I know what those successful actions are. So I'm putting them back in. So same thing with anything in your life. When you you got to recognize when you're getting off track and then put those successful actions back in.
And you know what's so funny about that? I love that you said that because I do the same thing. And I think that's something that moms, like, it's a superpower of ours, right? When you are getting, because I'm like that with weight too. Like I can feel when, okay, I've had too much cake, but instead of, like you said, getting down on yourself, you self-correct, guys. That is like a real superpower. When you can self-correct yourself, you will never get to a point where you're almost like, oh, I feel like a failure. No, because you know how to bring it back to where you need to be to have that feeling of success. You know, I always say, well, not me, but I've heard success is a feeling, right? When you look good and you feel good, you go out there and you do good, right? Especially as a mom. I mean, we have so many people that we have to take care of. You know, if you're married, your husband, if you're a mom, you know, with your kids. And sometimes you can say, okay, well, you're the last person to take care of, but actually you need to be the first. You need to be the first person that you take care of because that allows you to take care of other people and allows you to take care of your finances, right? When I go to the gym, and when I'm taking care of myself, I then say, okay, I have enough strength. I've got my workout in. Let's go hit these finances. Let's go hit these goals. Let's go do what I need to do to make sure that I am financially in a good place for me and my family.
I love that. And also showing your kids that example is so important. The self-correction of like, because kids, it's so hard for them, you know, they're growing up, they're becoming their own, they're learning these things. And when they make mistakes, it's easy for them to get hard on them, get down on themselves. And then sometimes the parents get down on them. And so for them to be able to put in their own ethics and to correct their own actions, it gives them the freedom to see us make mistakes and correct them. It gives them the freedom to forgive themselves and to get back on track as well. And there's a lot of people ask us like, well, how did you teach your son about money? How do I teach my kids? And so it may be something similar. One of the things that we started doing with our son, even before Martin and I met, I was a single mom for 7 years. And as I was learning these things, I would just teach him. Like one of the books that really changed my mindset and relationship with money was Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker.
I love that book.
Oh my gosh. And
I love that book.
That was William's bedtime story.
Yeah.
We read that at night. Think and Grow Rich. We read that at night. So everything I was learning, I taught him as well. And so for parents out there that want to teach their kids about money and how do they really like get into that, what were some of the first things that you did with your kids?
Well, we have something called the Money School, right? And I put a post up on Instagram showing the different stages. I started teaching my daughter was like 4, my son was 10, he's 17 now. So I implemented the Money School because what happened was I was trying to find a program that could teach my children. And at the time, there wasn't a program. So I said, you know what? I will start a school. So we have something called the Money School, and I would teach them just about different things, like you said, that you learn. Assets, liabilities, debt, credit card, all all these different things that kids need to know. And I also want to say, if your children are young, still teach them, because it's also about the language that they use, right? Now my children understand, and your child too, they understand the language of assets and liabilities and strategic marketing and all these different things that you're really not exposed to unless someone teaches you, right? And I also have a lot of women that say, you know what, how can I teach them because I don't know myself? Well, the greatest thing about it is, like you said, they might see your mistakes, but as long as you get back up from them and say, you know what, son, we maxed out the credit cards, but I'm going to research and see how we're supposed to handle credit cards and what I need to do better so I can teach you better, right? It's not always about like having that failure attitude, but it's about how to improve. And I'm telling you guys, once you start teaching your children about money, my daughter, now she comes in and says, when are we going to have money school? I'm like, girl, I'm tired. You know all this stuff. Why I got to teach you again? She's like, I forgot. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about it again. And another thing also too, you have to be repetitive. Okay. Kids, it goes in one ear and out the other. Be repetitive when it comes to teaching your kids about money. Yes, you got to say the same thing over and over and over and over again. And you will be surprised what comes out of them, when you're teaching them. My son, he was... before, at the beginning of the school year, he was buying school clothes because he had a job, and I made him save his money, and I made him open up an IRA because he started working. And I remember going to the store, and we were going to the store, and I said, those are some nice shoes. If you want them, you can get them. He said, okay, hold on one second. That boy took out his calculator and started doing his budget right there in the store. I didn't know if I was like, I was so happy. I was like, oh my gosh, but the fact that he even thought about that's everything to me, right? Because that's what you want your children to do. You want them to, do what you do, right? Because they'll always see me every month doing my budget. It's also what they see also, right? And so they always see me do the budget every month. And the fact that he actually took that into his own hands, that's what we want for our children, right? It's not always about what they learn in college and in high school, especially. And did you know that I was doing research, and most people learn from their peers? And most high schoolers learn financial education from their peers. That is...
Who don't know anything.
Don't know anything, right? Who don't know anything. So it's like the blind leading the blind. But what if, us mothers really took control of that and taught our children how to deal with finances properly?
Isn't that the best feeling when, like, sometimes we're not sure if they're listening because, our son's 17 too. So I don't know if you ever get like, a not interested response. And like, you're not sure if they heard you, no response. And then to see them doing something that you showed them, something that you taught them. And there was something just the other day, actually, I had our son do a write-up of one of the things. He's so responsible and so independent, but sometimes he has a hard time with time management and being on time and being ready to leave. So there's this write-up I actually had him do with these different steps to correct that and like put in his ethics to be able to be ready on time and how it affects everyone around him. And so he had come downstairs to fill this out. And just the fact that he came downstairs and was willing to go through it, I was like, oh my gosh. And then win
for the day.
Yeah. And then I showed him that I actually did that same write-up for myself based on my my workouts because those things had gone out. So I wanted to let him know, hey, I did this write-up for myself too because this is something I got off track. And so it's like so reward because they do listen. A lot of times as they get older, they pretend like they don't. They're not interested. It seems like you can't do anything right, but then you will see that those things are sinking in. It's so key. And one of the things too that really helped that we did with our son is at a very young age we started having him make financial decisions. So like he would get a certain amount of money to be able to use, and then he would make decisions. So we're like, hey, we'll buy all of your necessities, and for like clothes and stuff like that, you'll have a budget. But besides holidays or special occasions, if you want toys, if you want clothes or shoes over your budget, that's on you. You got to figure out how to get it.
Yeah.
So he started thinking, now he'll, instead of just getting rid of stuff, he sells stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's like buying stuff online and then sells it at a profit, because he's like ordering the stuff. He sells it. Yeah. And so he's always thinking about like how he can not just make money, but when kids when they have their own money to be able to spend, it's a lot different than like spending mom and dad's money. You know, it's like they know what they want. Yeah. But I remember the first time we took him to pick out Legos, and he was like 7 years old or something, and 6 or 7, and he's looking around at the prices, and he's like, wow, Legos are expensive, you know? Yeah. And so then he had to actually like let go of that money and make that decision. And so now he's like very thoughtful about the things that he spends his money on. Yeah. And it's interesting because I like a good deal. I like to say, I tend to be more on the cheap side. Yeah. But what's funny is he doesn't have a problem spending. He likes getting nice quality things. He likes what he likes. But he takes care of it. He makes it last. He and he's thoughtful about like what he spends his money on. Yeah. And then for now he's been saving for a car. We told him we're not going to buy you a car, but we'll match you what you save. That's smart. And I'm looking at his savings account, and I'm thinking we should have maybe put a limit on that, a cap on that match.
Y'all do that.
Yeah. Now, is your son driving yet?
No, not yet. He's not driving yet. We haven't tackled that. But I also wanted to say exposure is really, really important. If my son wasn't in school right now, he would actually be here because he helps me with the business. Yeah. He understands the work that has to go into the business. And they all do a piece of the business. He's very good with graphic design. He's done my graphics. And I think that just teaches him about business, right? Another thing, guys, we got to teach our kids about business. They go to business school, right? But they're not actually learning the ins and outs of how a business works, right? And what you have to do every day to make sure that your business is successful. So I just feel like exposure. And also, what I do for my kids, we used to go to $1 million showrooms. I think that's important. I think exposing your children to things, that is, I wouldn't even say, and I got to get this, that's a wrong thing to say, but beyond their reach, because sometimes people feel like, even us adults sometimes, that's for them. No, it's for everyone. If you have the right mindset, have the right vehicle, whatever you desire is for you. And so I make sure that I expose them to traveling around the world. Like he's about to go to Spain and France and somewhere else for his senior trip. Awesome. Yeah. And so and even if you can't take them to Spain, just, have pictures, look at this. This is beautiful. Look at here. Look at New Zealand, whatever the case may be. But it's about exposure. We want to expose our children, right? Because when you're in school, sometimes they just kind of lock you in a box. This is what you're going to do for the rest of your life. This is it. That's not how the world works, right? We as moms know that, but we have to teach our kids young that, right? Instill that into them, that the world is theirs. They just have to have the vehicle to get there.
And also that makes me think about encouraging them to think as big as possible. Because when I remember, when I was a kid, my imagination was limitless. Like if I wanted to be, I could imagine being a dinosaur or an astronaut or a superstar or whatever. And then as you get older, you have more people telling you, no, be realistic. You got to do this. You can't do this. And you just watch them shrink, And so to make sure that we don't participate in that, and especially anything that we think isn't possible for us. Right. Don't put that on them. Exactly. Let them think whatever that they want is possible. Like what you're saying, thinking that something is out of your reach. If you think it's out of your reach, you're right. If you don't think it's out of your reach, you're right. So it's like whatever you believe, and to make sure that they are encouraging you. They're stretching you to get out of your comfort zone, and you're not limiting them, and making their dreams smaller.
Exactly. And another thing, so because I am an African-American mother, right? There are things that I have to instill in my children. So, and this is just what I do. I always call my children king. I call my son king, and I call my daughter a princess. This is because, like you said, the world will tell them no. will, right? The world will say all these different things. They see on the news, a young Black man getting hurt, all these crazy things. But we as mothers have to instill in them that they are kings and that they are princesses and that they can do whatever they need to do. What happens is it expands their minds, like you said, and then they're less fearful to actually go out there and start the business, go out there and do great things, because you've exposed them mentally to bigger and better things, right? So if you're a mom out there and you're like, well, I just want my kids to do better than me. Start with the language that you're feeding them, right? Start with what you're saying to them, right? Because they could be going to school and somebody could be calling them stupid. You don't know. But if you're coming in and saying, you know what, you're a smart person, you're a smart boy, you're a smart girl, they'll always think that in the back of their head, right? And that can turn into them being successful, right? Children are like a sponge. I know you've heard people say that. You have to feed them great things, just like we have to feed ourselves great things. You know, if we want to be successful, but we just, always looking at TV, always looking at the housewives, what do you think? You're going to go in the next room and start arguing with somebody, right? Because you're like, well, that's what I binge watched the housewives for 10 hours. So make sure that you're feeding yourself good information and that you're giving that to your children as well.
Okay, so that makes me think also when you were talking about taking care of yourself first, is sometimes that's not the easiest thing to do.
Of course.
And through this whole journey, my son has been my motivation, because when I didn't necessarily think about doing something for me, I thought about doing it for him. Yeah. And then it was like, oh yeah, and I guess I could also do that for me. Yes. Like when I was a single mom, I didn't think I needed a man. Yeah. I could take care of everything. I could handle it. I didn't need a relationship. Yeah. And then I realized, well, I'm cheating my son out of having a father figure. So I guess I could consider a relationship for my son. Right. And so then I started writing down, well, who is the kind of person that I'd want to be in a relationship with? And so then that's actually how Martin came about, because I wrote down this list of the kind of relationship, the characters, the qualities, and then I realized, oh, I have to be the kind of person that would attract that person.
You said it. Yeah. You said that.
So I had to do the work on myself. Yes. But the whole motivation was for my son, William. Yes. And then later it started to sink in of like, oh yeah, I guess I could also, I guess it would be good to have a healthy relationship. Yeah. And I guess it would be good to learn about these things for myself. Yeah. And so
I love that process.
Yeah. So for any moms out there having a hard time of thinking about doing things for yourself, is I first have that motivation of doing it for my son, showing him a good example, and then kind of letting it sink in of like, okay, I could do this for myself as well.
I mean, me too. I've been married for a long time. And, with our kids, that is, the motivation. Like, and I can't be, I love that your kid was the motivation, and it was for me, but also for me, I want to be successful. Like, I want to be successful. I love my children, yes, I want them, I'm there for them, but it's really about me, and that's okay. If you're a mom, it's okay to feel like, this is about me. I want to be successful for me. And so that's what keeps me going, really. That's what keeps me writing the books, the courses, dealing with people online. Because, child, I've had my fair, of people online. But that's really what, keeps me going, is to know that you have, and I just want every mom to understand that you have the potential that you haven't even erupted inside of you yet. But you have to put yourself in that position. Like if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, you're talking about success and I can't even pay the bills. You have to switch that mindset. You can pay the bills, right? You just have to have the vehicle and the understanding that you have something inside of you that needs to get out into the market, right? Because I get a lot of moms that say, I'm struggling, I'm doing this. And I get it, because I was there. Like I don't want you guys to think that I just woke up one day and was like, I got it all figured out, because that's not the situation. But I know, right? It's not something that I think. I know that I will always be able to generate money because of myself and what I have fed myself over the years. And the understanding is that if I have the mindset, I could always have a course. I could always write a book. I could always tell a speech. You know, there's always something that I can do to generate income. And when you're a mom, like, you have to get to that point, and you won't feel, you know, oh my gosh, I can't afford to pay the bills because of this job. The job is just, you know, what you have right now to sustain you. But you actually are the income generator. You just have to have someone like me to help you get that out.
Yeah. And speaking of having products and services available to offer, is we not only connected online and have a similar passion for helping moms and kids, and there's a service that we have that helps people to put an estate plan in place, which includes wills, trusts. There's 4 documents really: wills, trusts, a health directive, and a financial power of attorney. And when we saw Regina's passion for talking to moms and families and people about putting these things into place, we thought this would be such a great partnership to be able to offer the service too. And so if that's something that you guys have been thinking about or wanting to set up, if you're following Regina, first of all, if you're following Regina, if you're watching on my page and you're not already following Regina, you got to go follow Regina.
Thank
Prosper with Regina.
Yes.
And for anyone that is following Regina, if you've been thinking about putting a will or a trust in place, reach out to her and she can connect you with how to get that set up. And it's really, really easy to get it set up, because if you don't have something set up and something happens to you, then where are your kids going to go? Who's going to take care of them? Who is going to make decisions on your behalf? And even if somebody doesn't pass away, if somebody can't make financial decisions or can't make medical decisions, these are things that aren't so easy to talk about, especially if it's like too late or you're in the middle of something. But if you get those things in place, it's off your shoulders. You don't have to think about it. It's less stress to have to worry about.
Exactly. And I just want to say, if you are following me, please go follow Miss Chelsea. She is a just wealth of knowledge, right? It's super, super important to surround yourself with other people that are going where you're going, basically. So please follow her. And like she said, yes, guys, we do have a partnership for estate planning. I do have a passion to make sure, especially, you know, African-American mothers, mothers in general, that they have something in place. A lot of times, unfortunately, women leave the finances to their husbands, right? And they're not actually understanding what is going on. I've heard so many stories where, unfortunately, the husband passes and the women just do not know what to do. They don't know where to go. They don't know what to do. I actually had someone told me, I was trying to talk to her about building her trust, and she said, "Oh no, my husband handles that." And I said, "Well, if your husband handles it, you still need to know what is going on. You still need to have the information, right?" And so, you know, I just feel like it's important for mothers to have a will, have a trust, guys. This is 2023. We have to make sure that we put protection in place for the next generation. If we're going to talk about building generational wealth, these are things that we have to do, right? The life insurance, the trust, the financial education, the getting the information. And so, yes, me and Miss Chelsea have partnered together. I just love her, guys. So please follow her. And she knows what she's talking about, right? I don't partner with everybody. This is actually my first time. Actually,
awesome.
Yes, partnering with someone in terms of us feeding the resources to you guys, right? Because I only partner with people that I truly believe in, that will help, right? It's not always about putting something in your bio, but I truly believe that this estate planning service is going to help, guys. So it's the first link in my bio. You know, get the information, get a trust for your family today, okay?
Well, I'm so excited that you came out here and that we got to meet in person. I remember when we did the first live,
which was amazing, guys. Go to my page and look at that. Like,
actually,
that live was good. It was so good.
Yeah, I think it was maybe actually a couple times in, a couple things that we did before we even realized that we were both in Georgia.
Yes.
And we're like, oh my gosh, we've got to get together. Yes. So it's so good to get together and have you here.
It is. Thank you. I'm so happy being here.
Yeah, and I just am so glad to be connected with you and to be helping more people.
Yes.
And so I look forward to many more things together.
Yes, me too.
Thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And anything else before we wrap up?
No, thank you guys for watching. This is important conversations that need to be had, especially with mothers. We need to have more conversations about wealth building, about things that we can do to make sure that the next generation, goes further. But what I like about this conversation is we have a tool for them as well. It's not just us talking about it, but guys, this is actually a resource that you can tap into to make sure that you are going through the process. Like I said, it's not that it's about being easy. It's about that it is necessary. Mothers, we need to talk about finances with our children and build that generational wealth that we desire.
Awesome. Yeah. Love it.
All right. Thank you guys.
All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys.
See you next time.
Yes.